Good morning, friends. Stephen Benoon with Israeli News Live, and we're going to kind of come back and recap this story a little bit, looking at a couple of other issues that are going on about the downing of the U.S.-made F-35 flown by the British, actually landing and taking off of an Egyptian aircraft carrier. It crashed in the Mediterranean Sea. I first wanted to address, though, real quick, a comment that was made. They were asking, why did we place this to where you have to click to go to iConnectFX.com to watch the video? And the reason for that, by the way, when you get to a certain place there, if you'll notice right there in the description, that's where you click. It goes over to iConnectFX.com. But the reason I did on a serious news broadcast like this one here is because of we immediately placed this in 3 other languages. So in the case of Hebrew, you just click on Hebrew, and you can hear it in the Hebrew language. You can listen to it in the Spanish language. So because of the importance of the broadcast, I quickly took and did that. And that's why we made it as a 30-second clip. Normally on this type of news, I just load it on Israeli News Live, just let it run. Sometimes, though, what I'll do for the sake of our friends on YouTube, we'll put it on Fact News Network, our other channel on YouTube. That way it's uninterrupted. So it's not anything other than we're wanting to make sure people that want to hear it in their own language can hear it in their own language as well. That's the reason behind that. Anyway, moving on into this story here, as you know, the British F-35 jet, it crashed into the Mediterranean Sea. And, there are some issues that I'm wondering why this happened. I got a report from Israeli intelligence that what was happening early this morning before 5 a.m., Israeli soldiers are being called up on a call for service. They were on their day off, things like that, because of the downing of the F-35 to help enforce a blockade to Syria so that this plane could not be retrieved by the Russians and taken to the Syrian coast. This were some of the things that I was already hearing. Also heard that there was a major storm early this morning just before the downing of the plane, and that this plane was believed by the Israelis that it was jammed by the Russians, who have subs and ships there in the region. And just to kind of prove that point there, actually, let's see, right here in Egypt here, we have this video here. This is later this morning. Oh, I lost the video. I didn't want to lose that. There we go, right there. It is pouring down rain still. Streets are flooded early this morning there in Egypt. I was told that it was a very unusual storm that came in, very unusual lightning and everything that followed early this morning that was going on. So could the Russians take an advantage of a major thunderstorm so it could look and appear as if the plane had some type of electrical problem? It would be easy for the U.S. and others to blame it on that, but we already were made aware that the plane was jammed by Russian ships there in the region there. But anyway, another thing that came to my attention as well that made me wonder about what was going on over there is that in Syria, let's see if I even have this up here. No, oh gosh, where do I have it? Nope, I don't have it up there. But at any rate, I did have an article up a little bit ago. Maybe I accidentally deleted it. But in Syria, let me just see if we can find it here. The Israelis launched 2 missiles into Damascus last night, and I'll just use the word bombed because that's normally what pulls that up. It was alleged Israeli airstrike Damascus. Yeah, but it actually did happen, and I'm not sure if we can get any reports on that here. That's June 8th, so that's terrible. It's really strange how it's very difficult to get information on Twitter now. I have a feeling that Twitter is beginning to block a lot of the information coming out of Syria. Here we go right here. RT reported this here. Syria says Israel attacked Damascus countryside with missiles, state media. And it was 2 missiles that were fired in. I'm very much aware of this already. And Russia did shoot down one of those missiles. And so the question remains, and this is 3 days ago, is this just an escalation of tensions that is happening there in the region? We know, and we've been told, that those tensions are going to escalate over the next 2 years before there is a conflict between different countries in the region, including Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, and China. They will be coming against Israel. This is all scripted, though, and this is what a lot of people are not aware of. So, but I was told there would be different types of skirmishes, as you see here, that would escalate this to this war where we're at. One thing, too, I got this from the Jerusalem Post. My wife sent this to me this morning. This was really interesting. Trump says Israel literally owned Congress in an interview, and he's proud of it. You know, listen, you can love Israel, and I can understand that. There's a lot of people, especially amongst the Christian people, that love Israel. And I love the people of Israel because that's, from my own heritage. But when it comes to our country and the sovereignty of our country, to have a president openly acknowledge, or a former president in this case, openly acknowledge that Israel owned Congress, and then he also adds, and rightfully so, that's a major problem for a foreign power to have control over another country. But he's right. It is true. They did own Congress, and I believe they still own Congress. Although there's a few, left-wing people out there. You got 3 people, Cortez and Ilhan, a couple of people there that are against Israel. I personally think they're just plants. I really don't think that they're really against Israel either. But he says here, well, the biggest change I've seen in Congress is Israel literally owned Congress. You understand that? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it was so powerful. It was so powerful, and today it's almost the opposite, Trump said. Well, I disagree with him. Israel still owns Congress. He also said Israel had such power, and he goes, and rightfully over Congress, and now it doesn't. It's incredible, actually. What business is a foreign nation? I don't care what nation it is. Israel, Russia, China, or anybody else have a right to have power like that over our Congress. There should be no foreign influence over our Congress. This should be done. The Congress is elected by the people, or at least we are told that. We know that's not really the case, but sadly, though, what he said is very true. As far as they do own Congress, and I just think it's interesting that Trump actually says that in an interview. What do you know? This was another interesting post I figured I'd share with you real quick. This guy here, he claims he's from Syria, and I believe he is from Syria, but he's talking about how we love Israel. We love Israel. And listen to real quick what he says, because you got to hear it, and then I'll tell you my thoughts on this.
Hello guys, I'm from Syria. We love Israel. Viva la Israel.
Why?
Because they are kind, very kind.
Where you from?
I'm from Syria.
Syria.
Yeah.
Where in Syria?
In Idlib. From Idlib.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's near Turkey.
And it's the Syria.
Well, when he says he's from Idlib, he's from Syria, then what is it? Al-Qaeda? ISIS? What fighting faction is he for over there in Syria? Because he's not a genuine Syrian, because most Syrians are sick and tired of Israel bombing their country on a near weekly basis, if not daily basis. So I really question who this man is. He may be a Syrian. I'm not saying he's not a Syrian, but he's definitely part of the movement to overthrow the country and cause destabilization. How many Syrians have been killed by Israeli bombs? And then you say you love Israel and say they're peaceful? How peaceful is that? Think about it. I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israel.